Afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to our AEC Lunch and Learn. My name is Eric Kurtola, Territory Account Manager here at Ketiv. With me, I've got my friend and colleague, Fred Ortiz, AEC Solution Engineer. And we also have a special guest I'm really excited to announce, Jesse Urquidi, one of our customers and friends from P2S Engineering.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Jesse.
Thanks for coming.
So we're going to be with you guys today for about 35 to 45 minutes. We'll leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions you guys may have. Fred, why don't you tell us a little bit about why we decided to do today's topic?
So we're coming to Ketiv from a company like P2S Engineering. I figured that most of our customers would have already implemented some sort of BIM process, right? But that wasn't the case. Many of our larger size customers are up to speed, but most of our smaller size customers are still on that BIM fence.
Right.
And in recent months, you and I have received dozens of customer calls inquiring about making that move from Revit to AutoCAD and implementing some sort of BIM within their company. And while talking to these customers, and hearing them out, I've recognized a lot of the same apprehension and anxiety that I once had when I was compelled to use Revit, being an avid AutoCAD user. I also noticed that these same customers have the exact same underlying motivation to adopt BIM, which is an upcoming project where they're mandated to utilize Revit for their design. And looking back, I kind of think this was the same reason that P2S made the move back in the late 2000s, right? I think kind of
2006.
Right, and then let me jump in. Yeah, what Fred just says happens a dozen times a week.
Right.
It's just, hey, we bid on a project. We need to have BIM tools. I think we need to get Revit, and me and you trying something 100 seats, right?
Right. Yeah, really. Yeah, and the fact is, though, this demand is only going to increase in the upcoming years. So we want you all as customers to be ready for that when you get that phone call to work on that Revit project. And that's why I chose today's topic, and that's pretty much why I invited Jesse in here to join us today to kind of share that story we share at P2S.
Right, so yeah, that's what Fred just said right there. It's the big goal, and why we're really grateful to have Jesse. It's discussing what BIM is, what it's not, what it means, and doing that with some real-life practical experience from someone who's not only been using it for years, but who's seen the changes and has actually adopted it. And I think that's the value of today's presentation,
Right.
Or at least that's what we want to impart on you guys.
Yeah, and as most of you guys already know from being on previous Lunch and Learns, before joining Ketiv, I was a senior CAD BIM designer for P2S Engineering, where I spent 15 years of my life working for a great company, but also building those relationships that'll last a lifetime. And while at P2S, I learned a lot about the industry, and I was also able to forge a friendship with this guy right here. So thank you for joining us today. And together, Jesse and I began the initial filling out process of implementing BIM, right? Back at P2S Engineering in like 2006, 2007, if I'm not correct, right? Yeah. It wasn't a walk in the park for us, but looking at where P2S is at today and where they're headed, it was a great decision making that move. And from what I know, P2S recently celebrated their 25th anniversary in business, and that's not by chance. That's by providing high quality services, innovative designs, and sustainable solutions, right? So with that being said, Jesse and I will elaborate a little bit more on this topic once we jump into our live interactive session.
Great, thanks. So Fred, let's quickly go over the agenda here. What do we have planned for today?
All right, so as far as our agenda, we'll begin today's Lunch and Learn by talking about what is BIM, defining that process. How is BIM different from CAD? What are the benefits of BIM? Then we'll touch on some industry trends as well. And during our live interactive session, you'll learn some valuable tips from Jesse and myself on why P2S considered making the move to BIM, their initial steps, including how they got management to buy in, and the thought process behind the move. We'll also talk about their challenges with making the move to BIM, and then we'll finish off with, of course, the benefits that P2S has witnessed utilizing BIM on their building projects. And then even though we will be conducting an interactive live session, we'll be answering questions as they come in. We'll still have some time at the end of the Lunch and Learn to answer any questions that we may have missed or came in a little bit late. So please type those into the chat.
Great. So we're going to define BIM, talk about the benefits, what you can expect using some real-life experience on that,
Right.
And again, how we can help you adopt it.
Right. So I'm sure many of you have heard of the word BIM before, right? But for those of you who aren't familiar with the term BIM, let's kind of define it really quickly, right? So building information modeling, or BIM, is an intelligent-based process that provides value across the board through the life cycle of your project. The BIM process involves creating and using an intelligent 3D model to inform, communicate, and collaborate on a project. Shifting this BIM process improves the way that we plan, design, build, and manage our building, infrastructure, and utility projects. Simply put, BIM is a way to design, construct, and operate buildings that involves creating and using that intelligent 3D model like I just talked about, right? Has all that information in it. And compared to traditional 2D drawings, these 3D models give all the team members a better understanding of the project, leading to a better, more predictable building outcome at the end of the project.
Right, so in AutoCAD we've got really just lines, arcs, and circles meant to symbolize different objects inside the building, whereas if we're using the BIM process or part of the BIM process with a tool like Revit, we're actually designing intelligent models which have data and information we can use to, I guess, accelerate or design more efficiently.
Exactly.
We'll get into the benefits.
Exactly. So with Revit, you have the model itself, plus you have all your details in there, your sheets all contained in this one model, which makes it easier to communicate and collaborate on. And you know, BIM is more than just a 3D CAD tool, and more than just a 3D model of the building, like you were just saying. BIM solutions use that relational database technology to embed that information into these models, giving them that title, an intelligent 3D model. So whether you start with existing conditions or a conceptual design, that data-rich model is the key to realizing the benefits of BIM. So with that data-rich model, you can simulate, visualize key physical and functional characteristics of that model. You can coordinate project information and collaborate with all the project team members more easily. You build smarter processes that help you retain knowledge and create better designs down the road. And with today's technology, it's possible to gather and share huge amounts of data on a project from just about anywhere, you know, your smartphone, iPad, on a desktop, laptop. So.
And I would add, yeah, it's easier because we're working off one single model as the single source of truth, exactly. That intelligent model, as opposed to having different iterations of what's being worked on and what's changed. And when we do make changes, the change is made to the model, which is then reflected in everything downstream, exactly. Automatically.
So you have that single source of truth. This seems to be a common term we've been using the last couple of lunch and learns. So
there you go.
Everything's contained in that one model. All right, so when we get into the live interactive session, we'll talk more about this, but BIM right now is being adopted so rapidly that most BIM capable project teams are actively seeking out other firms with BIM capabilities. And a recent survey reports that 81% of project teams are more likely to partner with companies that are also using these BIM workflows. And they're doing this because they want to reap those benefits of BIM, right? Which is more projects and more money or profit for the company down the road.
Right. So I guess summing that up, winning more business and then managing the existing business you have more efficiently.
Exactly. All right, so benefits of BIM. BIM supports more efficient workflows like we've been talking about and more accurate communication that helps address the complexity of today's projects that you probably see all the time, right? And BIM also helps your firm compete more aggressively when bidding and using those simulation tools to optimize designs and promote greater predictability at the end of your project. And like we talked about the mobility, right? So the use of cloud and mobile platforms to help these team members get the information they need when and where they need it is key so they can respond more quickly to these design changes on the fly. And the ability to put these large amounts of data or information in context for smarter overall decision making. And one thing we want to bring up is with Autodesk and Ketiv by your side, you all have access to the tools and solutions you will need to implement BIM at your firm. We have a huge network of partners, right? Developers, training centers here on site as well, and consulting services. So Autodesk and Ketiv BIM solutions are second to none. All right, so over the past several years, teams that have been utilizing BIM have been reporting that BIM allows them to do a lot more things, right? So we talked about that earlier, I think, before the lunch and learn. They reduce those errors and omissions from their models and their projects.
Right, so we start with an intelligent model, and maybe we carry the leg of the design work up front when we start creating that model. There's less changes to be made downstream because we have a more accurate model. Change is expensive, as everyone knows, particularly when it comes later on. So being upfront ahead of those changes is going to help reduce those errors, human errors, or sometimes just things that naturally occur during the course of the project.
Rework especially, so it reduces that rework aspect. It also reduces the project duration, the project's getting done in short amounts of time. Like we talked about, it increases the company's profits, being a successful BIM company, and you maintain that repeat business, so you keep making those connections like we talked about. BIM capable companies like to work with other BIM capable companies, so retain that same business and keep moving on and working on projects together.
Right, and one thing too, once you have that model, I mean, you're more flexible. You're able to more easily, adapt to those changes. So that right there has a value for customers. I'm sure you can attest to.
And these same companies that are reporting these benefits have also been investing more in improving the way they collaborate, which is key to the BIM process, right? They're making more investments in improving collaborative workflows, as well as investing in their own company infrastructure, IT, that allows them to collaborate internally and externally, which is something that's taking place more and more with the BIM process. And as you can see, these investments in these areas have increased over the last couple of years.
Right, and again, I'll go back to what you said right there. To me, collaboration, cooperation, communication, it all means change. To me, you're going to have to make more changes, and the more changes you have to make, the harder it is to do when you're not part of that intelligent BIM process.
Right. So this study provides more insight, right, into why these investments are being made, and the following benefits are being reported as a direct result of using collaborative tools. So you're getting that faster access to knowledge with cloud tools, mobile devices. You're reducing your communication costs, because I'm probably sure there's less phone calls, more emails, more collaborate on a project, maybe with the A360 or some kind of communicator tool. There's faster access to internal exports of your model and data. Reduce travel costs, of course, because now you're connected with the cloud, so you can work from multiple offices on the same model at the same time. And increased employee satisfaction, which all these factors pretty much improve the company's bottom line when it comes to increasing profits and getting more jobs.
Absolutely. Before we get to this second part of the presentation with P2S Engineering, Jesse here, looks like I got a question from Giovanni and I'd like to answer. Using AutoCAD, creating blocks with attributes, constraints, parameters makes AutoCAD a BIM software, or is a BIM design software something else? So yeah, great question, Giovanni. And Fred, how would you answer that? I mean, because AutoCAD or an AutoCAD MEP or architecture, it does have some sort of intelligence.
Yeah. I'm not saying AutoCAD doesn't have intelligence, but with AutoCAD, you still have those separate files and separate silos of information you've got to grab from. With a Revit model, the model's contained in that file, the sheets are contained there, the details, all the information that goes into the Revit families is there, so that kind of keeps that communication and collaboration, the changes all contained into one model.
Great, thanks. Giovanni, let us know if that answered your question. Otherwise, feel free to type something in and we will follow up.
All right, so let's jump into our live interactive session with our special guest, Jesse Urquidi, and kind of touch on some of the challenges that they went through and P2S went through at moving to BIM and moving to Revit. So what do you got, Eric?
So I think one of the things most of our customers ask themselves is, obviously they hear BIM, they think it being something expensive, or they're maybe a little bit apprehensive because it's something different to them. It's going to change their process, how they're doing it now. So what we'd like to do, Jesse, is just pick your brain a little bit here and ask, I guess, what was the impetus for moving to BIM, and what are some of the benefits, and maybe some of the bumps along the road you've seen to kind of help remove some of the doubt for the customer. So I guess, yeah, I'd start where I ask most customers, why did you guys consider BIM?
Right, I will tell you this, Freddie can attest to this. The very first project we did was building CC at Long Beach City College. Right. HPI architects at the time approached us and said, hey, we want to do this in Revit. And at the time, as you guys know, Revit architecture was way above Revit MEP or Revit building systems like those all the time. And, we took a look at it, the principals agreed to do it, and we were given, certain parameters to move into the process. And as far as bumps along the way, I wouldn't call them bumps, but, different ways to get around the maze, Yeah. And we found that we had to come up with a different process of how to collaborate with the architect and sharing the model and understanding what was going on. But the first benefit that we found right away was the clash detection piece. Okay. That was huge for us, in coordinating with structural, MEP, plumbing, everything else. And at that point in time, what grew out of that first project, because at the end of the day, the principals and mechanical engineers, design engineers, they wanted to see something on paper. Right. They didn't care about flying around inside the model and all that stuff.
You get paid on the paper, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. The CDs are always the important piece. But one epiphany I had out of that, and a friend of mine showed me, was, and then we kind of moved into this way as we talked to the architects. A lot of the design for the architect, and even for us, it would be put into the schematic design of the project. Right, all up front, and then the CDs would be more of the, the notes and the other things that had to be put in as part of the little details at the end of the project. Right. That was one part of the step that changed.
Yeah, all those the CDs is downstream,
Correct.
starting with the model. So I guess if I'm hearing you right, understanding it's the same reason most of our customers adopt BIM. I mean, you had a client or you wanted to bid for business that was mandated in Revit, so you guys actually made that change and adopted it.
Yeah.
There was obviously an ROI that was discovered or uncovered, and you guys decided to move through there.
Right.
So I guess management was already bought into the move, or you as a business development manager, you had to sell them on that.
Well, at the time I was still doing the de facto CAD management.
Okay.
So I was working with Freddie and a couple of other people that worked for us, and we hired another gentleman, Jonathan Herrera, that knew it really well. And I was the voice for them with management to explain, because management's vernacular was plotting, drawing, hours.
Right.
You know, the vernacular down here was families, model, and computers, plotting, and all the other stuff. So understanding, at one point in time, management even said, well, do we have to add more fee for BIM?
Right.
And we said, no, you don't have to add more fee, but you have to understand this is how it has to take place. We have to tell the architect what we want from the model. We had to have meetings just for that
Right.
up front. And then at that point in time, it would move into our process to where we would get the model at a certain time, backgrounds like we used to say in AutoCAD, And that point in time where I was interfering, or I wouldn't say interfering, but running the piece of understanding the strategic move in the process to BIM for P2S Engineering.
Right.
Because the principals they bought into it, they understood, and we outlined training the guys wanted to go to. We outlined certain software and hardware that we had to upgrade, as part of the budget for next year. Because at one point in time, the guys were like, man, the computers are slowing down for these models.
Right. I want to go back to something you said earlier, Jesse, though, because you mentioned the fees and things like that. I know there's a lot of people we talk to, a big trepidation is, hey, it's going to take me longer to design something. I can't eat that cost right now. I'm a small business. How can I absorb that? Tell me how this is going to improve my business, how it's going to make it better for me. So what I'm hearing from you is, it didn't really add hours. It didn't add cost to the job at first. It's just a different method of doing something. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, that piece, it's a great point. The training part of it, putting investment into training up front. And then as you moved through the entire process of a project, the training from outside consultants were basically, they were on call. If we needed something, they would come in, help us out, and they would take off when we didn't need them. But at the end of the day, we run into a snag on something, on how to build a model, look at a family, put together a CD worksheet, and collaborating. But I will take training up front, get your people to understand not just the software, the entire process from SD to CD, and to collaborate with the architect, structural engineer, and everyone else, and even within Revit MEP, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical.
Right. So not only within your organization, but collaborating outside of that organization, because again, it's part of the whole process here. And then once you guys did that, or once you made those initial investments, which I'm sure I'm going to ask you to elaborate on here in a second, but you were designing in same time, faster time, just about the same?
I would say just about the same, but
there was a learning curve.
There was a learning curve. But now it's an accepted part of the process.
Yeah. Right.
We're getting the model. The model's here. Let's work on our piece of the model. The structural model's in there too. And then as you reiterate back and forth, the project meetings are still the project meetings. The engineers, the architects still talk about what you talk about. But now we're finding out there's a BIM designer in that meeting from the architect. And our BIM designer goes to the meeting too. Yep. And they'll bring it up on the screen as we're doing here today, and they'll look at a few things they need to look at, especially when you get to a really high concentrated area, like for example, like a mechanical room or some other areas. And that becomes part of the process. And everybody they're just there now.
Yeah, the whole visualization process is what we're talking about. So we get you that visual look at that model.
And how did it work before you guys were using Revit?
Oh, you
plans.
Highlighting things.
Yeah, highlighting things.
Hoping you hit it.
Yeah, looking at sections. Okay, and then now you bring it up. Here's a model. Give me an elevation that way. Bring it up.
Brings it up for you.
Exactly. Do a cutout and show how it worked.
Right, and then we can even use some of the clash detection tools, the ones we've been talking about, are saying these coordination meetings. They don't have to be 4 hours on site.
Or like you talked about the travel costs. Yeah. Our guys would be at our office, and the architect would be out of their office. They were looking at the same model on the screen. Yeah. Talking on a conference call. Or a go-to meeting. Look at that stuff.
Trying to do that headache, which we
do that all the time here. So.
Okay, so I guess the expectations. Adopting BIM, how did that first project go specifically? Were you guys able to get there?
We learned a lot from it. And in learning a lot from it, there was little hiccups here and there. It went over budget a little bit. Not a major. We didn't lose a lot of money or anything. But with that being said, I mean, I'll go back to the training piece too. I mean, from that, it spurned how much training we needed to understand. Not just, like I said, I'll go back to say it again, not just in software, but in the process.
Right.
And getting the engineers to buy into what the process was. Now they speak in the same vernacular at our office. You know, well, is the model updated?
Yeah.
Did we get a new model? You know, are the families set up? You know, they say that to the BIM designers all the time.
Right.
Our mechanical engineers now use it to design, you know, Revit and MEP directly. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, obviously there's a lot of management buy-in, and then adopting this BIM process, really more of a strategic, organizational, or transformational change
Transformational piece.
coming from the top down. Gotcha. Do me a favor, expand a little bit on, I guess, how you guys deploy the training. I know you talked about getting everyone to buy into the process and just really understand the process, but what did that look like specifically for you?
You know, it's twofold. I mean, good Lord, it's almost 10 years ago now. And
can you remember what you had for breakfast?
Yeah. And, you know, at that time, you know, Revit was brand new. Everybody wanted to learn. Everybody, was looking at it and all the flybys and all the other cool stuff. Like I said, I'll go back to clash detection, how our details spurned out. But now we're finding a lot of younger engineers that we're hiring straight out of college already know Revit already. Right. I mean, last 5 years, they come in, they already know it. They know how to come in. They know how to pull up the drawings. They know what they're doing. I mean, they're not major experts, but they can navigate in there and know what they need to do. So twofold being, you know, at the upfront, everybody had to get out of the AutoCAD, you know, mode.
That was a rough part, right?
That was a rough part,
transition in your brain. So.
Sure.
Yeah. And then, you know, when these other kids come in, you know, our younger engineers, they don't even know what AutoCAD is. I mean, they see it, they work in it, and they all call it CAD. They don't say AutoCAD, they call it CAD. Mm-hmm. Oh, when you're using CAD, you can do this, but in Revit, we do this. And I just look at them like, okay, you know, they look at me like, oh yeah, you're the old guy. You used AutoCAD.
Right, that's some of the people, that's like the opposite. Some people we talk to today, you say, we sell AutoCAD software.
Right,
we work for AutoCAD.
Right.
Yeah, and to elaborate a little bit more on what Jesse was just talking about, we also did have a CAD team or BIM team we put together to kind of get everybody on board and get everybody together on certain aspects of the process and how we're going to accomplish that. So getting a team together kind of helped motivate and kind of get everybody forgetting about AutoCAD and just kind of focusing on Revit. Because if you're stuck on AutoCAD when you're in that transition, you're not going to move over very well. You're going to fight it a little bit and have some apprehension.
And going back to something else I left out, even our BIM manager, Jonathan Herrera, still has in-house trainings with all the newer engineers and what a project standard looks like. Mm-hmm. Here's how you set up your Revit model. Here's what we're expecting from P2S Engineering, our standards of families within our BIM models, how they're being put together. Here's what you need to ask the architect. Here's what you need from the structural engineer, you know, in order for us to work with the BIM model to do energy analysis, hydrology, and then be able to put, I remember one sticking point was how things looked visually, because our two owners, Kevin and Ken Peterson, were really big on how what things look like.
Sure.
On paper.
On paper, yeah. So we had to make sure that sometimes they bent a little bit. They're like, okay, you know, a home run doesn't exactly have to look like this, but you know, in Revit it looks like that. We'll accept that. So a little back and forth on how that looked too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was pretty major doing that. But remember what we did was to make them happy. We kind of let Revit be the guide, and then we kind of copied how Revit looked to AutoCAD. So when our AutoCAD came out in sheets, Revit came out in sheets, it kind of looked the same. Right. That's what our goal was. Right? But
they understood they had to adopt to the software. Yeah. You know, because it's very hard to have your software adopt to your standards, and your standards have to really kind of adapt to the software.
Right? Gotcha. And then going to a business perspective, I know you've kind of talked about some of the benefits a little bit, but how does you as a business development manager and sales trying to win more business for P2S, how does having these Revit or having done it for 10 years help you guys win more business?
Well, when I started doing the BD side in 2009, up until about 2011, I would meet new architects who were BD people. You know, I came from the engineering side, so I was a little bit different sometimes. The first thing they would ask me sometimes, do you guys use Revit? I said, yes, we do. Okay. That was one of their first questions every single time. And I said, yeah, we use Revit. We've done, how many projects have we done in Revit? Okay. And at that point in time, it was like maybe 10. Now we've done like 200 or whatever. But point being is that, they wanted to see our experience in Revit, understand how to collaborate, understand, not just collaborate, digitally, but, within in a workspace and a workflow that you can do remotely as well. Can you go to GoToMeeting and let's do that? And I said, we've done that a couple of times already.
Gotcha. Yeah.
We're talking to people from, back east and, San Diego and San Francisco. Canon Design when we did the San Diego Student Union. So.
Yeah.
All right, so you're getting your foot in the door, more opportunities.
Sure.
You're seeing that, and then obviously you're able to, let's say, bid more competitively because you have that intelligence. I mean, there's less risk or less unknown for you guys. So you're able to,
and I'll just switch gears just to get everybody a perspective of one of our clients. Not all of them, but they're actually on the forefront of this. And I know Freddie's a UCLA guy, but USC, their facilities management department, you have to give them the BIM model at the end of your project.
right, we talked about 60, right?
That's correct. They take it as an as-built now, and I see other clients working in that direction very slowly. Some Boeing projects,
Some campuses,
some of the campuses, the CSUs,
the model as built.
the CSUs are looking to do it, doing that now. So now you're not going to look at rolled-up drawings. I mean, they'll probably still have the rolled-up drawings. That's all well and good, but now you have to make sure the actual model itself is up to their standard when you give it to them.
Right.
You know, so they can use it.
Right. So yeah, again, these aren't changes. I mean, Autodesk or Ketiv or anyone else is really dictating upon customers.
Right.
These are customer needs, and in the end, in the free market, it's what serves the customer best. Is those firms are going to survive. The ones that adapt to the change.
Yeah.
Fred, a couple questions for you that just came in. Can we expand on the energy analysis aspect? Maybe specifically, I'm doing my best to kind of read this writing. How does the software, let's say a BIM tool like Revit, I imagine, use components, lighting, HVAC, plugins to handle that?
At P2S, what did we use for that? I can't recall what the software we did, but it was a plugin, right? Or
It was a plugin, and it was a Scottish guy.
IES?
IES, that's right. Yes, it was IES, and we used that a lot. And the engineers adapted it and made sure it was usable for ASHRAE standard, as well as on the lighting side. I remember Gary Jewell especially would use it with IES and A standard to make foot candles. And we found that we can actually do a lot of the analysis, and some of it was done in SketchUp, or the IES software or the other lighting softwares were actually, they would plug back into IES, and IES was a piggyback on top of Revit MEP.
Right.
And that's how we were able to translate back and forth and do some energy analysis. But with that all being said, we had an issue with a project where it looked really cool as a 3D model, but we had to make sure the architect would close their spaces in order to do the energy modeling.
Okay.
Because they didn't close the spaces right, and our models, the energy model was not coming out right with our CFM. And then once we made the spaces were closed, then it was easier to use. But you got to make sure you tell the architect that they make the model in that certain space.
I guess, yeah, that's something else important too. We have to, anytime you're taking a project, right, just defining expectations is
Exactly right.
probably key.
Right.
And leaves me another question. Well, I guess let me touch on Nathan's other question here I saw you had.
Nathan?
Yeah. If the building has natural ventilation, is it harder to model?
I don't know.
I would say no, but I could find out actually.
Yeah, Nathan, we can get back to you on that answer.
That's actually a great question.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, I know Kent Peterson, our chief engineer, is not a big fan of natural ventilation. But, natural ventilation, no, it's not any harder than anything else. I mean, it's an open space. You have open fenestrations. But if you want to actually show if you're talking about natural ventilation on over a cafe, because we did natural ventilation at San Diego State, where the automatic controls show the vents going down in the Chipotle cafe there. That was a part of natural ventilation, which was pretty cool. But I don't think it's going to make anything more harder to model it. I mean, to calculate it within the energy model, you might have to add a couple of different attributes to account for that, but I don't think it's anything more difficult.
Right, and then I can't touch on it in detail. I know there's tools that right now run simulation of the model, especially if you're on subscription. There's cloud-based simulations you can run.
Always like that in subscription.
Right, yeah.
That's the key, always subscription. But yeah, there's additional plugins, things like that.
And the cloud's a good point. Instead of using your machine's hardware, you could use the cloud to do all the stuff nowadays.
Okay, so yeah, Nathan, we'll go ahead and touch base with you after offline and follow up with your questions here. Another question that came in here from Brian is, if the architects I'm working with aren't using Revit, why should I begin the BIM process? I guess, Brian, I would just answer that by saying it's a good point, but do you want to only work with the architects you have now, or maybe I just look at it differently. I want to work with people not just in my ecosystem, but I want to expand my ecosystem.
Right,
so
increase profit.
If there's more money to be made with people or clients using Revit or mandating that, I mean that's definitely business I would definitely consider.
Maybe he could be the front runner on that and kind of lead that with his other people he works with.
I would answer that question as especially is he an MEP engineer or civil engineer? Did he say?
I don't know.
Okay. If you are Brian, if you're an MEP engineer, you would benefit from doing Revit MEP because you could actually model out your ducting and do it on your own, and you'll find that it's easier to draw it, put it in, and then check it against any clash detection. You probably won't have an architectural model, which is just fine, but you'll see that you're able to do your sections and your elevations much easier and even pull out your details and do your analysis a lot easier. Although you may not have a 3D model because you're probably not going to get that, but you can make a 3D model quickly and look at the basic coordination piece that you would make for that. But it's not going to hurt you to do it. Is what I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that demand's only going to increase in the future, like we were talking about earlier, to get up to speed with Revit and get on a Revit project. So the demand's not going to go away. So eventually, Brian might get that call.
Yeah.
I need you to work on Revit. He's not going to be ready. So you might as well be ready beforehand so you can get the job and then get more jobs.
That's a good point. If you can, I like what both of you said. Yeah, if you can anticipate the changes coming, or we really know they're going to come. Let's not be late to the dance. Let's get that experience now under our belt. Especially, like you said, if it's not hurting you. I mean, if you can do some things faster, more efficiently, it might be a good idea to jump into that. So getting back into some of these questions here. Good questions, guys. Thank you. How have you expanded some of the, I guess, BIM process you guys are doing right now at P2S? I know we're exploring things with, LiDAR and clouds,
we recently bought a 3D laser scan camera. Faro. And what we're using it for, because we do a lot of design and redesign or modifications of large central plans for the CSU system at community colleges, they have given us the ability to go and as-built that entire space and take the point cloud, bring it in, make a model of it. We currently offer it as a service just if we need to some people if they ask for it. But it's a service we really use for ourselves, and that's where we've expanded on it. And we were able to take the point cloud, like I said, and make models out of the SDSU central plant, Cal State Long Beach, East LA College. Because if you've ever been a central plant with pipes and chillers and pumps all over the place, you try to as-build that. Even with a camera, a regular camera going around, we were able to make the whole thing and make the model, and then again understand how you can fit something in there, phase the project, and come up with an accurate model for that. So that would be a piece of our expansion of how we've done that.
Gotcha. Using that to, again, it's just an extension of the process, right? Used to make better decisions and help with the planning.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay. Fantastic. We got questions coming in. Some of these I can't read. Okay. Now that, guys, a couple of these questions are a little bit elaborate, or paragraphs. I just can't read them all right now. But good questions. We'll certainly answer them offline. It's just I'm limited to about 2 lines here, but we'll definitely connect offline and get back to you on those. Fred, do you have any questions on your side that you can see?
The last one I saw was the energy analysis one.
Okay.
This one was to go back and talk a little bit about the differentiation between BIM process and software. I remember there was confusion before. I remember about the Revit and stuff.
I mean, I can go into a few other things because BIM doesn't necessarily mean, I know it's Autodesk. Autodesk likes to say BIM means Revit. No, it does not.
Right.
BIM also means
only on this webcast.
Oh, okay, all right, that's fine. We'll leave the other B company out of it then. BIM is a process and Revit is a tool. You're not taking the design, the ownership, the understanding of your design, be it architectural, be it mechanical, or be it civil for that matter, away from the engineers or architects. You're still using that as just a different tool, like I said, like Freddie said earlier during your presentation, and to make better decisions, understand the workflow, and just come up with a better product in order for this product to be built. And your correlation, your collaboration along to the contractor, reduces a lot in time, RFIs, change orders, as everybody says, and then you're going to get into other things where now everybody goes to a different type of project delivery. But BIM is a process. Revit is a tool of that process. There's a lot of other tools to process. Our laser scan camera is a part of the process now. But still part of the design process.
Right.
BIM is part of the design process.
Gotcha.
For example, I mean, BIM's not going to write specs for you. I mean, BIM's not going to do field work. BIM's not going to go to meetings, and BIM can help you cost estimate. The process can help you cost estimate BIM, but it's a part of that entire design process.
Right. Yeah. Great point and great clarification. Yeah. Revit is just a tool. It's not a.
It's not BIM.
If you're designing an AutoCAD, just exporting it in Revit and then cleaning up just a second of the architect.
People do that. They put it back in Revit. Just like I've seen people do their notes in AutoCAD because they like to do the notes in AutoCAD. They bring it into Revit because it's easier to type in AutoCAD. I mean, for them. Right. I'm not saying do it that way. I've seen it in our office happen that way.
Yeah.
And that was actually a couple of years ago. It might be different now.
So really quick before we move on, a couple more things to talk about with Jesse before we move on. So talk a little bit more about the challenges and then the benefits you guys are now reaping with BIM and
the work. So I see the benefit. Well, the challenges at the beginning, like we went over again, was initial buy-in from the management, ROI for the software, ROI from the training, understanding how we would collaborate and move our process forward. Again, going back to the design process. The benefits now, obviously, it's like you just all of a sudden you're just writing in a different language and everybody's moving forward. Even our vice president Arvind Batra speaks about models and updates and stuff, and he understands that. Having known Arvind's been there a long time, and he's one of the higher ups, and he understands the BIM process. Yeah,
right.
He'll even call the architects and say, "Well, we need that model right away, and you better do this, this, and this, or else." And Arvind has never opened Revit at all, right? But he understands the process. He's been in those meetings. He's an electrical engineer. So I mean, at the same time, I would say that. From an MEP side or an architectural side, make sure you just have that bridge that makes sure you're going to connect the two. And at this day and age right now, the advantage is the workflow is just so much easier. Right. It's much easier with collaboration. It's much easier with design. It's much easier with analysis. Lighting and mechanical. Plumbing has gotten better. I won't get into all of that right now, but I think it could be better. But it seems like it's the stepchild from Revit MEP.
Mechanical.
Everything was mechanical at first, but now plumbing. They've done a lot. Great strides with plumbing. The rise and run works now really well. So.
And to elaborate on that, I think I remember talking to Kevin before I came to Ketiv, and he was telling me that about 75, almost 80% of your projects now are in Revit,
about
right?
That,
yeah. So that tells you about the shift right there.
Gotcha.
All right.
Great. So, I think that wraps up the questions I have on my side.
Yeah, I think we're good on that. Is there any more questions out there from you guys that you want to ask before we head on off to lunch?
No, I think that about does it, at least from what I can, my strained eyes can see. Andy, do we have any other questions?
Here's one.
Okay.
Any tangible, I think we kind of answered this one, but is any tangible benefits like being able to get more jobs, which we did ask, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're using BIM and you have good workflows already, like I said, other companies doing the same thing are going to want to work with you, and then you're going to get those more complex projects.
Yeah, like I said, early, 2009 to 2011, that first 2 years, Revit was really coming in, and Revit MEP was really coming in. And tell people how many projects you've done. I told them, we use Revit. And I had to send a couple of lists to people of the projects we had done in Revit. Now it's just expected.
Right. Yeah.
Even by the clients themselves, they'll say, "Oh, we're going to get a model." Yeah, you're going to get a model.
Yeah. Then going back to touching upon what you said earlier too, just a lot of that knowledge you build, you only get by doing it. There's a lot of tacit knowledge just behind once you start doing it. So knowing what expectations to lay out for the architect and whatnot.
That's all.
But I think we're good on the questions, Fred.
Right.
Let's wrap this up.
All right, so let's move on. All right, so let's go over what we talked about today, guys, and what we learned. We talked about the benefits of BIM, right? How it supports more efficient workflows and more accurate communication, helps your firm compete more aggressively, getting more jobs, because you're able to use those simulation tools off the bat to get better project predictability at the end, right? And then we have the use of cloud and mobile platforms to get the information you need when you need it and where you need it. So that goes back to the iPad in the field with your iPad or on your mobile phone, either way, right? and also the ability to put large amounts of information in that model to make smarter business decisions and design decisions back down the road.
Sure.
And then also what we heard from Jesse and the rest of us about the P2S BIM adoption story, we learned why P2S made the move, which is similar to why our customers are asking us if they want to make the move now, right? That project's looming, they have to get up to speed on Revit, they have to use Revit, so that was one of the reasons. We talked about their initial steps, including how they got management to buy in, their thought process behind the move, their challenges with making the move to BIM, and then we heard from Jesse right now the benefits they're reaping utilizing BIM and Revit on their projects, which is everybody knows they use Revit, knows they use BIM, so everybody wants to work with them.
Sure.
All right, so here's our wrap up. So before I let you guys go, here's a quick wrap up for today's Lunch and Learn. If you haven't already done so, you might as well conduct your own BIM assessment within your own firm. There are tools out there, and you can Google information and find stuff to do your own assessment in office, or you can contact Ketiv, and we can help you conduct a BIM assessment on site or in the office, whichever you prefer. And also feel free to schedule a one-on-one conversation with me or our team, and if you have any questions regarding making the move to BIM, just give us a call and we'll talk about it and talk about our experience we just talked about. And also, if you're interested in purchasing any of the tools you will need to make the move to BIM, just give Eric a call or visit Autodesk website to download that free trial to get you up to speed on the whole software of Revit or whatever tool.
Right, and let me jump in there. I mean, we were kind of debating back and forth on how to present this, introduction to BIM, and we were looking at, hey, maybe just doing trials or demonstrations of kind of specific workflows or things we kind of see. But the reality is, it's different for everyone. It wouldn't really make sense to try and present BIM or this process and try and relate it to hundreds of different disciplines or fields. Just give us a call. We'd be happy to talk to you about it, understand a little more about what you're doing, the benefits it might have for your business, and how we might be able to help.
Right, and also don't forget we do have a Ketiv YouTube site where this video will be posted to later, so you can watch it over again and see our faces again if you desire that. But anyways, if you want to go see the content, we have past Lunch and Learns on YouTube as well that you can view, so don't forget about that. And we also do have other social media outlets like Twitter, LinkedIn for sure, Facebook, where we promote things and talk about new products and new stuff that you guys will benefit from.
Okay.
Don't forget that.
Otherwise, we hope to see you 2 weeks from now when we talk about Vault for the AEC and Vault and Revit Server.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks again, y'all, for attending our luncheon. I hope you enjoyed the content, and let me just thank Jesse again for taking the time out of his valuable day to join us and enlighten our customers on his experience with the P2S BIM adoption story. So have a great rest of your day, and hopefully, like Eric said, we'll see you in a couple weeks.